Hello there, and thank you for visiting this channel. Let me share with you my story, the why behind this channel, the why behind my mission, and perhaps you will hear your story through my story. I grew up in a dysfunctional household. Um, my father was a chronic alcoholic um, with strong narcissistic mm, patterns. He was also very, very abusive, physically, mentally, emotionally, towards rest of his family, myself, my sister, and my mother. And for most of the time, he was absent. He was not available. So I felt abandoned by him. When I was 5 years old, I remember this scene very well. There was a moment when my father came back to home, again heavily drunk, and he tried to attack my mother with a knife. And in that moment, I ran between two of them to stop my father. And somehow I succeeded. I prevented a disaster. And most of the time, as a child, I felt disempowered because of the toxic environment in house and also in the school. And yeah, this toxic environment impacted me in different ways. My father's abuse and abandonment convinced me that something was wrong with me, that I was not lovable, I was not deserving, and instead of being lovable, I deserved suffering. So gradually, I started to stop resisting bullying in the school as well, because internally I was defeated. I was defeated back at my home. And I experienced lots of suffering and abuse during school as well. Because of this, I became very, very fearful, and my strategy to avoid abuse was to remain invisible, to avoid any kinds of reaction from bullies, including my father at home and including other kids at school. So I did my best to stay invisible, not to shine bright, so that I would not be seen by others. Another strategy that I developed as a child was people pleasing. I decided that the safest way for me was to mold myself around other people's needs and desires, so I would become like this chameleon. And often I would try to seek validation by trying to be liked by others, including my parents, not just the school kids. I craved so much love and acceptance, but I didn't dare to express it illicitly. I tried to gain that uh, indirectly through backdoors by manipulating. And at that time, I wasn't aware that it was manipulation tactic to try to reach my goals and meet my needs indirectly by trying to trigger a certain response from other people so that I would receive in return my hidden expectations, which most people didn't know about. So there were a lot of disappointments from my side, that I tried to be the good guy, but I never received back what I craved. I was also very afraid to say no. So there were basically no boundaries. I was afraid to say no, also to teachers when they asked me to participate in the projects that I didn't want to participate in. Once a joyous child, a very active and happy child, I became very shut down, very locked off. And I developed also different coping strategies for that, one of which was different kinds of addictions, including gaming addiction as well. I was raised as a very feminine, very passive, very disempowered version of man by my mother, single mother, because she was traumatized by other men in her life, not just by my father, but also other men from her own family line, including her stepfather and her brothers, and so on. So as a boy, I unconsciously developed this hatred, I despised masculinity because of my father's example, or his version of role model. And the paradox is that even though I despised my father and his version of masculinity, and I wanted to be a completely other way around, 360 or 180 degrees version of him, the paradox is that I received a lot of the same type of patterns that my father had. And later on, I recognized them in my life showing up in the same way as disempowered, weak, toxic version of male. Of course, I struggled with relationships greatly. Because of this, um, I was not able to show up as strong masculine presence to the feminine. Often I would be the feminine in the relationship dynamic, and women would be forced to take on the masculine role unconsciously. So the dynamic was flipped over. And yeah, that was one of the reasons why the relationships didn't work out for me as well, because subconsciously I was looking another version of my mother. I wanted to be mothered just like my father. And through the breakups, I learned a lot how not to show up, and that served me as a powerful catalyst. Besides all of the pain that I experienced, I also had this very strong sense of mission since early childhood. As a child, I remember that I fantasized as a small boy that one day I will become a president of my country and I will help people, because there was deep desire to help people, to help them, to live a better, more loving life and less suffering in the world. And later, when I um, studied entered in the university and started working and landed a job in public sector, I realized that no, the politics is not my platform how to help people. I realized that my platform how to help people is working through the personal development field in different formats, one-on-one, group, through audio, through coaching, through courses. My painful childhood experience was a shocking eye-opener to me, a naive child, that the world needs a lot of healing. People need a lot of healing. And I knew that it was my mission to help as many people as possible to relieve their suffering and help them live a more fulfilling and loving life. My mission is to help you and others step into their empowered versions and to live like kings and queens. I am here to embody healthier version of masculinity by learning from my own and my father's mistakes. I am here to support you, to hold you, to love you. I know what it means to experience self-hatred. I know how it feels to be disempowered, to be unseen, misunderstood, betrayed, abused, abandoned, manipulated. I know how it feels to be lonely, desperately craving for intimacy, seeking for belonging, companionship. I know how it feels to procrastinate for a long time, long time, distract self, not taking action towards your dreams, and feel frustrated and shame and guilt and pressure and anxiety and overwhelm. I know how it feels being addicted to different bad habits and also addicted to disempowering mental narratives and limiting beliefs. I know all of that. I'm here for you. I know that inside of you there is a great power that wants to be unleashed for good of humanity, of this world. I believe in you.